Hola. Hopefully you guys had a great weekend. So our first grammar for this remote learning is the perfect tenses. So this is a little bit of review from Spanish 3. So we are going to talk about present perfect, pluperfect, and then present perfect subjunctive. So present perfect is presente perfecto in Spanish, pluperfect, pluscuamperfecto, present perfect subjunctive, presente perfecto del subjuntivo. So all three of these tenses you conjugated last year in Spanish 3, so hopefully they look familiar. These are all compound tenses, so they will have all at least two words. There will be a bear and then the participle. And then if it's reflexive or if there's a pronoun, you would add that in front too. So the present perfect is the first one we're going to talk about. You're going to use the present perfect to say has or have. So for example, Anna has done her homework. They have done the dishes. The bell has rung. So the present perfect is going to use haber in the present tense and then the past participle. So we'll talk about the past participle in a second. But for haber, you're going to use as, a, hemos, habéis, han. Habéis and vosotros is the only one with an accent. Pluperfect is going to be used to say had. So this is going to be when there is something else that happened. So he had been sick for 2 days when he went to the hospital. Something had happened when something else happened. Math class had been really easy until now. So haber is going to be in the imperfect tense, and then there's a past participle again. So for pluperfect, haber will be había, habías, había, habíamos, habíais, habían. And then present perfect subjunctive, this is going to be the same as present perfect, so it's going to be has, but this is going to be used when there's a subjunctive trigger. So, for example, present perfect, Anna has done her homework, but present perfect subjunctive will be, it is important that Anna has done her homework. So because there's this subjunctive trigger, we use present perfect subjunctive. We doubt that, that's a subjunctive trigger, so they have done the dishes, it's going to be present perfect subjunctive. So haber is going to be in the subjunctive, and then we'll still have the past participle. So haber in the subjunctive is the credi verb, aya. So aya, ayas, aya, ayamos, ayais, ayan. And then all three of these will have a past participle after the form of haber. So to form the past participle, take off the ar, er, or ir. For ar verbs, you're going to add ado. For ir verbs, you're going to add ido. So comenzar, comenzado, vivir, vivido, beber, bebido, despertar, despertado. There is no stem changing for this, so you'll never stem change. However, if there are two vowels next to each other and it's an er or an ir verb, then you have to add an accent on the I and ido. So for example, caer would be caído, leer, leído. There are no stem changers, but we do have the irregulars. So abrir is abierto, cubrir, cubierto, decir, dicho, describir, descrito, descubrir, descubierto, devolver, devuelto, escribir, escrito. So freír is frito. And notice that a lot of these will have like a prefix and it'll still be the same irregular. So escribir is escrito, describir is descrito. Cubrir is cubierto, descubrir, descubierto. So if there's a verb with a prefix, it's still the same irregular conjugation. Hacer is hecho, imprimir to print is impreso, morir, muerto, poner, puesto, resolver is resuelto, romper, roto, ver, visto, volver, vuelto. And again, this is just, devolver is just volver with a prefix. So volver, vuelto, devolver, devuelto. So I know I went through those kind of quickly, so feel free to pause if you need to write them down. The last thing you have to remember is that haber can never ever be split up from that past participle. So pretend haber and the participle are married and love each other and you can't split them up. So if you're going to have a negative sentence, the no has to come before the verb haber. If the verb is reflexive and you have a pronoun, pronoun goes before the verb haber. So for example, despertarse in the yo form, the first thing we need is the pronoun because it's reflexive. So may will come first, and then it's present perfect, so a despertado. Pluperfect, it's negative, so no habíamos dado. Present perfect subjunctive is negative and it's reflexive. The no comes first, and then we have say because it's AS form, and then hayan dormido. Okay, so if you want to take a second and pause this and do these practice problems, just to make sure that you are understanding it correctly, I would pause now and go ahead and do these practice. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and say the answers now. So present perfect, you should have hemos estudiado, se han acostado, he traído, and then pluperfect, decir would be habíamos dicho, te habías roto, no había leído. And then present perfect subjunctive, no haya tenido, hayan sido, me haya despertado. Remember, we don't stem change for these. And then the last thing I want to show you is how to know which one to use. So for that, it showed you, like for all of them, what it told you on that which tense to use. So that's what you did in Spanish 3. In Spanish 4, you're going to have to choose which one you have to use given on the sentence. It's really not as hard as it sounds, though. So you're going to look at the sentence, and the first thing I'm going to do is see if it has a subjunctive trigger. If it has a subjunctive trigger, you know you're going to use present perfect subjunctive. So for here, number 4 has a subjunctive trigger because I hope that, and number 7 has a subjunctive trigger. I prefer that. Number 3 is I believe that. So remember, if you believe something is true, that's like a fact, or you believe it's true, it's indicative. So this is not a subjunctive trigger. So subjunctive trigger, present perfect subjunctive, number 4 and 7. The next thing you can look for pluperfect, pluscuamperfecto, is to see if something else already happened in the sentence. So I would look for a second conjugated verb in the sentence. So like number 2, dijiste, I had already seen the movie when you told me the ending. If there's another conjugated verb in the sentence, you know it's going to be pluperfect, pluscuamperfecto with that bia. Because something had happened when something else happened. Same thing with number 5. My grandpa had died when I was 7 years old. Tenía is a conjugated verb. So if you see a conjugated verb, you know it's going to be pluperfect. Number 6, same thing. Me caí, conjugated verb, pluperfect, había. If it doesn't have a subjunctive trigger or a conjugated verb, you know it's going to be present perfect. So number 1 does not have a subjunctive trigger. It does not have a conjugated verb in the sentence after, so it's present perfect. Ha leído. Number 2, we said has this conjugated verb, so pluperfect. Había visto. Number 3, I believe that is not a subjunctive trigger, that's indicative because I believe it's true. So it's just present perfect, regular present perfect. Hemos jugado. 4 is a subjunctive trigger. Hayan traído. 5 we said had this other conjugated verb. Había muerto. 6 has a conjugated verb. Habías dicho. 7 has a subjunctive trigger. Hayan escrito. So that's kind of how you can tell. So if at the very beginning, the first warm up, it will tell you exactly which tense to use. But in the future, some of them you'll have to decide. So that's how you can kind of look. Feel free to email me if you have any questions, and we can go over any of this if you need it. All right. Gracias. Adios.